I would say BRICS' strength is more in its divergences, differences, or in how different they are, than in finding more common things in them. I would say intercivilizational and differences are more interesting, because this would allow to show the variety, how variety of the world that we have, that it's not just about liberal West, but all different kinds and types of regimes and countries and arrangements are viable, they can be there, and they can cooperate fruitfully.
Looking a bit historically about the building of other economic blocs and political blocs around the world, would you say that BRICS are going too slow, or it's the way because it's so complex that nothing is easy to agree among so many and big partners like these 5 countries?
First of all, I wouldn't call BRICS has its peculiarity. It's not an economic integration bloc, not a really geopolitical bloc in its like NATO, right? It has nothing to do with it. It's a club. The other clubs we know so far are the G7 and then G20. So they have similar methods of functioning. If we look back at how the G7 was forming, first of all, they were very not eager to accept either. Like first, Italy was very much on the brink of their whether to accept it or not, and because of the governmental changes there, very frequent governmental changes, then because what prevailed in the end is the threat the communists will take over the government in Italy. So since they wanted to counter it, Italy got into the club and got some money and aid, etc., and moral aid. Similar was with Canada. So it was a difficult process of getting the members inside. I think all clubs like this, they go through ups and downs, they go through a slow process, and all there is a need to have this strong political will to continue. And as far as we have common agenda, which we do at the moment, and I think we have it as a long-term process, I think we're still good.
Victoria, sometimes when we're talking about a group like the BRICS, it seems easier to set some economic targets than to try and set some basic standards that each and every country has to abide. I'm talking specifically about 2 problems that are common amongst us, which are bureaucracy and corruption. Do you see there's any chance of us to also move forward in facing these problems and trying to solve them, even if we know the historical weight of these problems in our countries?
I would say those issues have more luck to be accomplished if we are dealing with other countries who are ready to push us and to make different, and so who can actually go with the conditionalities towards it. We of course can claim it as our priority, and it will be really great, but I would say there should be more in order to stimulate our proper governments to fight with those ideas than just BRICS cooperation.
We see also very interesting things happening. One of them is the really consolidation of the BRICS Development Bank. And I'd like to hear your view on this institution specifically. What can it do to consolidate the bloc?
Well, on the one hand, we know that it was at that point an Indian initiative and very welcome one, and ideally, and it has to help BRICS countries and other South countries to fight their problems with their infrastructure development and all those that require lots of investment. But with all the hope that this endeavor will develop well, I'm still very cautious about claiming early success of this institution.
Where do you see the BRICS in, let's say, 10-year time from now? In the best possible scenario, what would it be of this group of countries, of this, not a bloc, this club?
Well, I would say it will depend on a number of developments in the international scene. First of all, it will depend on how effective the United Nations and Security Council of the UN will continue to be, or will be more effective if the reform will take place. While we are here in this unstable and insecure world, presenting that countries with different backgrounds, different ideologies, different traditions and culture can work together, there is a huge meaning in our gathering. And so I think that will be a prerequisite for us remaining as a viable bloc in 10 years' time. But probably in 10 years' time we'll have some more members in it. And namely, if we want to stress the inter-civilizational agenda, we'll have to have some Muslim country in it, and probably will attract someone from the nowadays presumed West who would want to join us and contribute to the world stability. So I would say in 10 years' time it's likely that BRICS might remain, but remain probably in, with a larger audience as a member.
É como se no início dos anos 90 do século passado, a Rússia tivesse entrado num túnel em direção a um futuro incerto, como é próprio de qualquer futuro, deixou para trás a utopia da ditadura do proletariado para abraçar a sociedade de mercado. Mas a herança soviética é parte integrante da alma russa. No arcabouço de serviços públicos universais, na forte presença de um Estado ainda centralizador, no noticiário, com a onipresença do presidente e a falta de opiniões críticas ao governo, na arquitetura com suas marcas stalinistas, ou até mesmo no singelo passeio pelos lados da Universidade de Moscou, onde o nome do cenário preferido para as fotos dos recém-casados não deixa ninguém esquecer. É o Mirante Lenin. A vista revela a capital russa e o próprio país e suas contradições. Misturando o velho e o novo, chaminés de usinas, prédios residenciais e comerciais. Uma síntese desse país gigantesco com uma economia dependente de petróleo e gás. Com uma mão de obra qualificada e distorções sociais evidentes. E uma política que alterna promessas de ser uma alternativa aos grandes do Ocidente com os delírios de uma superpotência sempre em busca de reconhecimento.
Da riqueza dos czares, que tinha como contraponto a miséria de boa parte da população, nasceu a Revolução Comunista. Hoje, em tempos de nova Rússia capitalista, a Universidade de Moscou, em toda a sua imponência, é mais do que uma lembrança da era soviética. É um exemplo de uma afirmação de grandeza que a Rússia parece querer consolidar ao longo de toda a sua história.
Para saber um pouco mais da posição russa no cenário internacional e especificamente no contexto das grandes economias emergentes, estivemos no Ministério das Relações Exteriores, um exemplo acabado de arquitetura stalinista. A conversa foi com o embaixador Vadim Lukov, o nome do governo russo para assuntos ligados aos BRICS e ao G20. Na visão desse diplomata calejado, os BRICS estão unidos por vários interesses estratégicos. São uma aliança de reformistas da arquitetura financeira internacional, insatisfeitos com a herança do processo de reconstrução pós-Segunda Guerra Mundial. São um grupo de economias complementares com um mercado de 3 bilhões de consumidores e têm desafios socioeconômicos parecidos.
Our nations are committed to the principle of upholding the international law, the support of the United Nations, and of its central role in the world system. We all confront similar challenges, socioeconomic, political, and by way of exchanging our experiences in all these spheres, we could enrich our strategic thinking. We could organize a more coherent system of mutual assistance in various spheres. We are all an alliance of reformers. First of all, in the sphere of the international financial architecture. We are not satisfied with the current state of this architecture, and the embodiment, the symbol of this architecture is the Bretton Woods.
Russia, we know, is part European, part Asian. Brazil is all South American, but has a very strong influence in the whole Latin American and in the American hemisphere as well. How, in your view, can we make in our bilateral relations, and of course in the relations with our BRICS partners, make the most of this geographical and strategic positioning of our two countries?
We could initiate the drive in these regions. As I said, since our own population is 3 billion people, we should add to this at least 1.5 billion people who live in adjacent countries or in the countries of our respective regions. Yes, there is, for instance, the Business Council that has been established with 5 prominent businessmen from each country representing our national economies. Yes, there is such a thing as stock exchange alliance with the cross-listing of about 8,000 companies from all the BRICS countries with a capitalization of more than $7 trillion. These are no small things. But again, we need deeper cooperation in this sphere.
Lately, we've been hearing a lot about the arousing of the Mint as another group of countries of similar economies that could take the place of the BRICS, even though the BRICS aren't even totally ready. Having that in mind, how do you view the prospects for really the consolidation of the BRICS as a group of economies and a group of countries that can work together?
There's no sense in denying the fact, yes, the rate of growth of BRICS countries has slowed down. Yes, our American partners expect the rate of growth to be about 2.2%, but after very difficult 6 years, during which BRICS was playing the role of the major locomotive of global development. We are still the most dynamic force taken collectively in the world economy. 4.1% of growth forecasted this year. The difference between the aggregate average growth of BRICS countries and of the G7 is 3.2%, which means that BRICS is gaining new ground in the world economy.
Thinking a bit about what we could call the Russian soul and the values, historic values that lead Russia, where do you think that we are far apart regarding the way that we understand each other?
As to our differences, I think they are conditioned by the differences of our history. Because Russia was exposed to so many invasions, so many wars,